Day night, 9 p.m., and it is another installation of Date Night Discussions in the Just Ask session live on now. So I've been asking and encouraging all of you to send in questions. You can hear my phone going off as they come in, and for the next little bit I'll be answering those for you. So you can either tweet join the DP on Twitter and I'll answer your questions there, or you can go on over to the Dinner Party Facebook page and post them in the comments there. Or if you're live on this Google Hangout or on YouTube, I can pick them up there as well. If I don't get to them tonight, I'll make sure that I'm answering some of your questions over on jointhedinnerparty.com in the blog that I write once a week, and address any of your questions there with a whole bunch of answers. So let's get things started and see what's coming in here. So someone's asking, when someone asks for a date number two, and you know you don't want to go on another, is it better to address it right away or just avoid it and hope they forget? I'm all about kindness and treating others as you would want to be treated yourself when it comes to dating. And in this day and age of online dating and it being so tech focused, what's happening is that the disappearing act seems to be more acceptable. And I really encourage everyone to date with integrity and to give people the due respect that they deserve. So if you've connected with someone and it hasn't been made clear just through a lack of connection during your first date, that you need to gently and politely let them know that you wouldn't be interested in the second one. If you're already feeling it during the first date and have the opportunity in your goodbyes to gracefully bow out, saying something along the lines of that I've had a really great time getting to know you, and I wish you the very best. If you need to be more to the point and specific about it, you can either address it at that time if you feel comfortable. Otherwise, you want to be letting them know right away. So the next day, if a message comes through or they're wanting to see you again, it's best to address it right there and then. And being clear and direct is the best way to do it. If you hum and haw or you're not really clear what it is you are saying in hopes of saving someone else's feelings, that's when things can get complicated and feelings can get hurt. Majority of the time, especially with guys, they like it if you're just really direct with them instead of them wasting their time. Let's see what else we've got coming up here. I know I've got a series of them. If you're really attracted to someone on the first date and you want to sleep with them, how can you create it without them thinking you're easy? That's a great question. So I would assume that if you're on a date and there's lots of chemistry going on and a bit of sexual tension, and you're game for connecting with someone and sleeping with them on the first date, you yourself can make your intentions known by just your interaction with them and your body language on that date. When you're really into someone, you're wanting to get into their space, there's a lot of touching and flirtation that's going on, and really making it quite clear through their reaction back to you that it's a mutual thing. And then you can just, again, be clear and direct at the end of the date. If it's getting pretty handsy at the end of the evening, chances are that the other person's game as well, but you can extend an invitation and keep it really relaxed. But the thing that you want to keep in mind is that there has to be some semblance of an understanding as what that means for you going in. It doesn't need to be a heavy conversation. It just needs to be an understanding that if you're going in and are you just going to have a sexual relationship? Are you wanting something else from this relationship? If that's the case, you want to give it its due care in having that grown-up conversation before you slide into bed, because that can change the dynamic. And if you've only spent just one day or night with someone, You want to make sure that your communication is really clear. And if you just want to have a relationship where it's casual, but you are sleeping with each other, I mean, there's the safety issue with regards to who's sleeping with who, being safe when you're having sex, and then having a clear understanding of what the relationship is like. I feel like I'm repeating myself there a little bit, but I think it's really important that clear communication is key and making sure that that works. And easy, I mean, in this day and age, I think giving yourself away when there's not a mutual attraction, that's more easy. If it's you're doing it in order to garner, in hopes of garnering someone's attraction or care for you, that's misaligned, and that can get you into a lot of trouble. If there's a mutual attraction and understanding, then I say go for it if it works for both of you. How long do you, well, this lines right up. So how long do you wait to sleep with them while still keeping their interest? Again, I think that really depends on circumstance and the relationship that you're starting to build with an individual. I'm a believer in really establishing a connection on an emotional level, which for women in particular really actually makes the sexual experience better if there's an emotional connection there. So if you can take some time in doing that, I think the sex is only going to be better. And I know there are some schools of thought out there that monogamy first before you're having sex. And that has been tried and true in some circumstances. If you're subscribing to a particular faith, that of course is very important. But if you're thinking long term, I'd hold out for a while and really build on the relationship, because that's what's going to make the sex really good and last and be respected and valued within that relationship. So if you can, have that conversation, but don't play cat and mouse. Again, have a direct conversation with the individual and make it happen that way. See what else we got lined up here. At what point do you leave a date when you know you're absolutely not interested? Well, my own personal experience is if you come in and it's not working for you, you want to have interaction. You don't want to necessarily write someone off right away. If you've connected via online or an introduction through a friend, again, you want to be kind and respect that person has invested their time to come and meet you, and give them the due time for you to connect and see if it really isn't a fit. But if you know it's just not going to work for you, then I think you have that honest conversation again with them and gracefully bow out. You want to do it with kindness and care. I have heard numerous horror stories where people are coming up and saying, oh no, this is not for me, and then sort of cutting tail and turning and walking the other way. You want to be respectful and really date from a standpoint of putting the shoe on the other foot. So as uncomfortable as it makes you, or if you're creating or passing judgment in a situation that you think doesn't honor your own view of yourself, take the time to step back and really think about how you would want to communicate that to someone else without harming their feelings. We don't want to deter each other from having the bravery to connect with each other. So really think about that every time that you're interacting with anyone, whether you're being approached on the street, you've been set up on a blind date. I think it's important that you're honoring the other person in whatever line of communication you're trying to bring forth to them. There's always a nice way to put things. Be empathetic while you're dating. I think that's key. And it's a small world. You never know who you're going to connect or run into later down the line where you've maybe behaved poorly, and karma's a bitch. That'll come back and get you. So make sure you're dating with care. Let's just see what else I've got coming up here. So at what point do you leave a date when you know you are absolutely not interested? I'm going to just touch on that again a little bit more. If you have already communicated online or have spoken to the person on the phone, which I think is really important before you sit down with someone in person, you want to make sure that you have an established sense of chemistry there. Do not have a text or email connection. People can take a long time to do an email reply and come across as being really witty and charming. But it's a little different when you get someone on the phone. So before going out on a first date, and really I think you should start with doing a coffee date to see if it clicks, so you're not put in that awkward situation. Have a really good conversation with them on the phone first. It's known that men fall in love with their eyes and women fall in love with their ears. So tone, depth of tone in the voice, timing, sense of humor, charisma, all those things come into play when you're speaking to someone on the phone. And it just takes a little bit before you can know right away whether or not that's going to be a good click. And pay attention to things. Are they listening to what it is that you're saying? Are they curious about you? Are they doing some active listening skills? They're asking you a question and then not just steamrolling over you. Curious about your life, asking some personal questions, and not shooting right to sharing war stories of being online or past dating woes. These are things that you want to avoid, not only on the phone, but for heaven's sakes, on the first date as well. It's your opportunity to get to know each other. And if those things aren't happening and it's not clicking for you, then I think you simply let the person know on the phone. And don't get yourself into a situation where you end up on a date and have to kind of bow out. Now, that doesn't always work. I myself have been in the situation where I've had, a dynamic conversation on the phone with someone and then ended up on the date and it just wasn't a good click. Chemistry is a tricky thing. Sometimes it does come down to meeting someone in person, but then make sure your first date is just drinks, or better yet, coffee in the afternoon. And you can see very quickly whether or not that's a good fit, and there's timing between the two of you. And it's not to say that coffee couldn't turn into lunch or dinner and a longer date. Those are the best kind when the connection happens and you want to invest time in each other right off the get-go. Just give me a sec here, folks, and I'm just going to check in and see if I've got anyone queuing in elsewhere with some of their questions. And if I've answered those and you're wanting me to go a little bit more in depth or specific without a lot of context, sometimes it can be difficult. Please let me know. Let me just queue into Twitter here. Again, if you want to tweet a question, you can tweet at me at @jointhedp or on Facebook at The Dinner Party Vancouver. Okay. So how are you going about making a great first impression? I think a lot of the time when we get asked out on a date, more often than not, we start to spin our wheels and get overly concerned with making a really good impression on someone, where it creates a heightened level of anxiety. I think you want to look your best, but you don't want to be doing anything, wearing anything, representing yourself in any way that doesn't really genuinely showcase you and who you are. Ladies, don't be going out and buying a new dress and it's not something that you haven't worn before or ensured that you feel comfortable in. When I host the dinners, a lot of the time I get the question, what's dress code? So those of you that don't already know, I host events around the city called the Dinner Party, where I bring together like-minded singles to connect over a really great meal and kind of take away all the dating pressure and anxiety that surrounds it, take away the awkwardness. Just get a great group of people together that are aligned with the same interests, values, lifestyle choices, and they get to know each other over a great meal, and then part ways at the end of the dinner. And if anyone's wanting to connect, then I connect them after. And there's always a little bit of anxiety about, well, what do I wear when I come? And I always say dress to impress. So you're putting on something that is showcasing the best of you, showing off a great figure, or all of us have something great about us. So something that accents it, your favorite color or shape or fit of an outfit that you're wearing that shows off your best assets, if you will. And but it's something that you're comfortable in. You don't want to be putting on something new or wearing something that's outside of your comfort zone, or making a big fashion statement if it's not something that you're already comfortable in. And then, you know, doing your hair and wearing your makeup, you want to be natural looking guys. You just want to make sure that you're clean and smelling great and your hair looks good, that you don't look like you just rolled out of bed, that you're coming across looking really confident and dashing in your outfit. So it really goes the same for dates too. You want to look your best. You don't want to come in looking like you're going to the prom. You want to come in looking like yourself, but the best representation of yourself. Getting ready, make it fun. Crank some tunes and have a good time while you're getting ready, as opposed to running around the house and trying to figure out what it is that you're going to wear and then fretting all the way into the date. You want to go in relaxed and centered in you. So I hope that answers that question. I have another one that's come in. Okay, so after the date, and it looks like both of you have connected in a great way, they're wanting to know how to make a great impression post-date. So are you asking out someone right at the time of the date, or are you calling them the next day? I mean, dating for ages has had so many rules and regulations around it. That unto itself can create a bit of angst. And I really think you should come back to feeling really comfortable about your approach. If you want to talk to that person right away and connect with them again, then let them know. Any sort of attention that's coming from a genuine place, as opposed to a posed or controlled place. Don't call in 3 days, do this and not this, can come across not authentic and really miss the mark. So putting in a phone call is one thing I will encourage you to do, as opposed to texting. And what calling does is it really sets the tone and showing that you're a confident individual, and you can bring back some of that charisma that obviously you had during the date that helped with the connection as well, and bring up things that you hit on that resonated with both of you and made that initial impression too. That too can slide into the date planning. As much fun as it is to go for dinner, if you two have connected over your love of film, or you love to get out and hike, or you have other special interests, make the added effort of putting together a date for the afternoon or for the evening that shows that you were paying attention, and that you're putting some thought and carry through on that date and paying attention to the little details. That's what's going to make the biggest impression on someone when you're connecting again. thoughtfulness and care goes a really long way. Okay. These are great. So you started dating someone and you've made the decision that there's someone that you're really interested in. And so the question has come up is, how do I maintain that level of attraction and intrigue? It takes effort and care. Just like when you're getting into a relationship, you don't want things to become so familiar that it takes away the fire and the excitement out of the relationship. It's great to keep yourself on your toes as well as the other individual as well, so keeping things fresh. You don't want to slide from going to exciting, thoughtful dates to every Friday night staying at home and watching a movie and doing the same thing over and over again. So I think a couple of things is really keeping the intrigue in the dates, but at the same time, also making sure that you're continuing to live and operate within the beautiful life that you've already created for yourself. And what I mean by that is that a lot of the time what will happen is that you'll get enamored with someone and then you start giving up the things that are important to you, or you'll change your schedule in order to accommodate the other person all the time. And when you're so readily available and you're giving up parts of yourself, that's when people can get lost in a relationship. So I think if you continue to be the interesting individual that you were before meeting this new love interest, and keep on feeding yourself and your own interests, that's what keeps you exciting and keeps the attraction going. I think that's a really key thing in starting new relationships, that you just don't give everything up and become readily available for each other. You want to continue to grow and do things that interest you, and in turn that makes you very attractive to the other individual as well. So keep that in mind when you meet, your special someone, that you don't lose yourself in the midst of all of that. And I think I got time for maybe one more question. Let me just make sure that I'm checking in on Twitter and on the Facebook page. And you guys always keep in mind as well that you can send me your questions in early, which I have a couple of them here, to info@jointhedinnerparty.com. You can always send those in early and I can have them ready for the next installation of Just Ask, which is every Friday night at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Or you can do them live during the event on the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/The Dinner Party Vancouver, or on Twitter @JoinTheDP. Okay, so one last question, and it's someone asking about how to approach a man. So a big debate that comes up, especially in the Vancouver area, is well, it's not so much a debate because no one's talking to each other. It's more a complaint from the women that not enough men are making the approach, and that men aren't confident or more assertive in their approach with women that maybe they've experienced in other cities. And so what she's asking is, how do I effectively approach a man? Because I think traditionally that's a role that women are raised to think that men are to approach, and that women are to play a little bit hard to get. But I just watched a great piece specifically about that topic, that in actuality it has been women that have been making the approach for years, but it's not the overt direct approach that we expect of men. With women, it's more about an invitation. So it's creating a dialogue where when the engagement happens from a man, it feels like he has made the approach. And it could be something as simple as, well, think about in the olden days, and you still see it in like period films and so forth, when a woman walks down a street and like tosses her Kleenex or tissue, excuse me, or handkerchief, I think is the correct language, over on the street, and it looks like something that she's dropped accidentally, whereas it really is something that she's done intentionally. So the gentleman goes and picks it up, and then that creates opportunity for them to start a dialogue. So think of the handkerchief method when you're out, or approach a guy and ask him if he can help you with something as a means to starting a dialogue. So say you're standing in line at the coffee, and a really cute way to engage someone would be saying, I'm wondering if you can really help me out here. I've got a problem on my hand, and I'm hoping maybe you can help me out. And he is never going to say no. And you say, I'm needing some help with deciding on a muffin choice. Can you help me with that? And be flirtatious and cute about it. And that creates a dialogue. And say he picks a muffin that you can't stand. You can have a really cute retort like saying, well, it's never going to work with us. I don't like carrot ginger muffins. And you can't tell typically a guy that he can't do something. So it starts kind of a witty repartee back and forth between the two of you, and the flirtation is right off the get-go. So get imaginative. Women certainly can approach men. It doesn't need to be a walk up to them and do it, although I've seen it done, and it can work beautifully as well and inspire others. But be a little imaginative and be brave and put yourself out there. Yeah, I mean, if we sat around all the time and just crossed our fingers in hopes that someone would approach us, we'd all be single forever. So get out there and interact with people. If you follow me on Twitter or on Facebook at all, you'll see that my big day of connection is on Wednesdays. I myself go out onto the streets of Vancouver and hit different watering holes and establishments to connect with people and let them know what it is that I do. Watch how people socially interact, and encourage people to engage with me and have discussions about their own dating experiences, and invite them to get involved in having a dinner party experience as well. So pick a day of the week that you get out there and are connecting with people and practicing your engagement skills and connecting with others. I mean, you can even make the decision that every day you're going to interact with 3 new people. So whether you're a guy or a girl approaching someone of the opposite sex, you can do a hi drive-by where you're walking by and giving them a dazzling smile and saying hello, and operate from a place without expectation. That takes away the whole fear of rejection. It's just you practicing connecting with others. And I think you'd be pleasantly surprised. More often than not, you're going to have people that are delighted that you reached out and connected with them. And then you'll learn how to polish that skill, and it won't be so scary after a while. So I'm going to leave that with you there. Thanks for tuning in and sending in your questions. And I'll see you, if not at the dinner party, I'll see you next Thursday here live on Just Ask.